So I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room. See, I know what you're all thinking. You know, I'm up here on stage, and you're asking yourself, how did that guy on stage get such a fantastic jacket? And in one instance, how did he become the best-dressed guy at TEDxUNB, right? I'm going to address the jacket in a moment, but I want to start with a question for you. Now, you're all students in the room, so I'm going to ask you about your personal branding. How are you putting your personal brand and marketing that out into the world? Now, I'm willing to guess that many of you, when you think of your own personal branding, you might think of your Facebook page, maybe your LinkedIn profile, that's a good one. Maybe a blog that you wrote that you started a couple of years ago. Perhaps maybe it's even a white paper or a report that you wrote during university. But I'm going to challenge you for a moment because I'm willing to bet that many of you have never even given it one thought, your personal branding. Now, I want to challenge you on that approach because I'm willing to bet, in a few years, you're going to be out in the marketplace and you're going to be applying for your first dream job in your area of specialization, in your area of expertise that you've studied for so long. And when you apply for that job, you're not going to be the only one applying for that job. There's going to be others. You're going to have competition. And I'm willing to bet that if I asked them what they did for their personal branding, I'd probably hear this. Well, I might think of my Facebook page, my LinkedIn profile. That's a good one. Maybe they wrote a blog. They started a blog a couple years ago. Perhaps they wrote a white paper or a report while they were in university. Or perhaps, like you, they didn't even give it one thought. And if that's the case, all things being equal, because I'm willing to bet that many of them are just as smart and qualified as you are, and if all things are equal, what makes you become to stand out from your competition? And this is where the jacket comes in. What makes you become the yellow tulip in the sea of red? So I'm going to tell you a little story. I grew up in family business. My mother and father started a retail home and garden center in the 80s. It was a good business, provided a great living. My siblings and I, we worked in the business. We worked hard for many, many years, but we were able to bear the fruits of that, our labor, and we had a great living, and it was a good business. And then it happened. Big box store moved in. I'm sure you've heard the story. For us, it started with Walmart. Then Home Depot and Costco, they all came into our marketplace and started taking market share away from our business. About this time, I was getting into business. I was taking over from my father, and it was tough. And there were many, many years that it felt like we were working harder for less money. It was around that time that I was fortunate enough to meet a business mentor and advisor of mine. His name is Vern Harnish, and he taught me this concept. He said, Andy, you need to own the ink in your industry. He said, if you want to stand out in the marketplace and be positioned as an authority in your marketplace, as the expert, you need to own the ink in your industry. Whatever your customers are reading, have it come from you. That learning, that teaching that he gave me reminded me of a quote that my father told me when I first started in business. And he read to me, he said, the secret to success is to know what you're doing and be known for what you know. You see, we knew what we were doing. We were good at advising people in their gardens, helping them make their landscape beautiful, helping them with their home decor. We were good at that. What we lacked was to become known for what we know. And that's where that saying of own your ink, we took that and we really gravitated and really embraced that. And we started publishing quarterly newsletters that we would mail out to our customers. The newsletters evolved into a magazine that we published, again, to give gardening tips and advice to our customers so that they looked at us as the expert. About this time, internet marketing became a thing. Yes, I did graduate from university before the internet was around. But internet marketing became a thing, and we started with email marketing. Eventually, that turned into social media. Our favorite platforms were Facebook and YouTube. All the while, we were doing workshops and seminars, countless workshops and seminars every year for our customers, teaching them about different topics, again, helping them become successful and helping us position ourselves as the expert in the industry. And it worked. And that's when I kind of put together this theory that really, when it comes to thought leadership marketing and content marketing, there are really three pillars of effective content marketing, and that is leveraging digital, print, and interactive marketing. But I know what you're thinking. Interesting, but how does that apply to me? I would suggest that this applies to your personal branding just as much as it does to any business. Now, when you're looking at it, the challenge with it is, what do you write about? Like, where do I start? What do I even publish any information about? What do I write about? Well, in 2008, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. And one of the interesting concepts that came out of Outliers was this rule around true expertise. In the book, it stated that the experts have determined the definition of true expertise, and that is 10,000 hours. He talks about how Bill Gates was coding as a youngster long before he started Microsoft. He talked about how the Beatles did countless 8-hour gigs in German pubs before they ever broke out in America. They honed in and they worked at their craft for 10,000 hours before they made it big, they were a true expert. And it's one thing that's interesting with the 10,000 hour rule is when you're working in your subject matter of expertise, when you're working in your area of specialization, and you're working at that full time, you're working approximately 2,000 hours a year. You work in that for full time for 5 years, there's your 10,000 hours. Now, I know many of you are students here. Maybe you're not at the 10,000 hour rule right now, but I would suggest your 4 years of university, or 8 if you take 2 degrees, you're getting very close to 10,000 hours of study. You have expertise, and I want you to embrace that. I want you to realize that you have knowledge that is worth sharing that 99% of the population does not have. And if you share it to the right audience, think of the person interviewing you and your job coming up, that dream career job. If you have your knowledge in front of the right person, it can make a big difference to you. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of content marketing. The first one is digital. And when you think about digital content marketing, obviously you think of blogs, you might think of LinkedIn posts, but it is so much more than that. One thing to consider with your digital marketing is, where is your audience consuming content and how are they consuming content? You see, in digital marketing, digital content, people consume content in one of 3 ways. They either read it, watch it, or listen to it. Read articles, watch videos, or listen to audio clips. Now, if you look at putting content out there in the written format, yes, you want to be on social media. You want to have your Facebook, your Twitter account. You want to share information that way. As students, LinkedIn is where I would be publishing articles, because your future employer is going to look at your social media accounts, specifically the LinkedIn, and as an employer, we don't employ anybody until we at least try to check out their Facebook page, see what kind of a person they are. And do you want your future employer to see content around the updates of Friday night's party, or a white paper that you wrote on LinkedIn about a specialized area of study that you did that addresses exactly what that person is trying to hire for? Think about how much of a difference that'll make for you. So written content marketing works, and you want to share your knowledge and expertise in the written form. Oftentimes the biggest objection I hear is, that's great, Andy, but I don't have the time. Well, I call BS on that a little bit, because I'll give you a little hack that'll allow you to do this very easily. Leverage ghostwriters. If you're not a writer, I'll tell you myself, I believe I have knowledge and expertise worth sharing. I am not an English major, and if I were to write an article, it would take me 3 agonizing hours, and it would be very poor quality, and nobody in this room would want to read it. However, I will use the recording app on my smartphone, rant into that 5 or 10 minutes, I send it to my ghostwriter. A day later, I have an article written for me. A few edits, and it's posted. It's out there. Anyone can be a published author in their own right online. Leverage a ghostwriter. If you're going to do video, video is great for content marketing, by the way, because video is the most engaging form of content marketing. It's engaging because it engages your audience with 2 senses, visual and audio. However, video has its drawback as well, because not everybody will consume your content in video format. And when you think about it, if you see a video in your LinkedIn or Facebook's feed, what's the first thing you do? You see a video that might be interesting, you look at the time. And either subconsciously or consciously, you ask yourself, do I have 3.5 minutes to invest in this video or not? And sometimes the answer is no. The downside of that is if the answer is no, that video will not be consumed because chances of them finding that video or coming across it again are pretty small. So video does work well, but it's not the be-all, end-all. And if you do video, do yourself a favor. Make sure you have a good webcam. Of course, that goes without saying. Think about the lighting. Make sure you have some lighting in front of you, not over top head lighting that casts shadows on your eyes. And God forbid, how many people have a video with a nice big window behind them so they just look like a silhouette at best? Think about your video. And the final little trick is make sure you use a lapel mic. Oftentimes when you watch a video and you think, wow, that wasn't a really good video, a really well-produced video, it's often the audio, the quality of the audio that will make all the difference. So it's a few little hacks. Also, leverage freelancers to help you produce and edit it, and you'll have professional videos. Now, audible content is interesting because podcasts have been around for a long time, but they've really grown in popularity in recent years, mainly because audio content is the only content you can consume while doing other activities. I personally love audio content because I can consume it when I'm driving home from work. I'm going to the gym doing a workout or doing work around the house. So don't discount audio content. The second pillar of content marketing is print. Now I know what you're thinking there. Why in the world, in an age where everything is digital, why would you do print marketing? I'll tell you there's a few reasons. Interestingly enough, last year, Forbes Insight and Deloitte put out a study, and they basically said that if you are only putting content out there in digital format, you are alienating 50% of your audience. Because for everyone who wants to consume content online, there's another person that wants to consume it in print. The study also goes on to say that anything found in print is more credible and has more longevity than anything found online. Now, when you think about it, you're in that job interview, and it's between you and another candidate. You're both equally as qualified, and that candidate shows or directs the interviewer, you know what, check out my Facebook page or my LinkedIn page, this or my blog. This is where I put my content. Versus you who show up and you say, oh, by the way, here's an article that I had published in a trade journal that addresses the exact same thing that person's hiring for. Who do you think has more credibility? Print is not dead. In fact, it is even worth more now than it was years ago because it's becoming more scarce. But it still instills the authority and the credibility that comes only with print. The other way you could do print is not just publish content and submit it to trade journals or industry magazines to get it in print, but also write a book. How many people here have considered writing a book? You should. You should. It doesn't have to be in a big elaborate book. You've seen mine, 80 to 100 pages. You can get your points across. I love the quote from Mark Cuban, who wrote a book. His book is 67 pages. He said, I don't have anything more to say. All I have to say, all my expertise is in 67 pages. That's great. Again, you can leverage ghostwriters, designers, editors to help you publish your book. But if you're in a job interview, going for a marketing job, let's say, and you say, oh, by the way, I published a book on marketing, here, I'll give you a copy. Tell me now who's the yellow tube in the sea of red. Tell me now who's the expert in front of them. And it's no longer a question of should I hire you or the other person. It's, can I afford you? That becomes the discussion. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is interactive marketing. Interactive marketing is any time that you're addressing your audience face-to-face, in person. It can be phone calls, it can be one-on-one, like in interviews, or it can be like what I'm doing right here, right now, which is doing presentations. This is interactive marketing. In interactive marketing, most of us, to seal the deal, whether that's a business deal or an employment deal, you're going to have some interaction with the person to close that deal. And when you think about the three pillars, they need to be consistent and congruent. That's why it's a strategic approach to representing your brand out there in the world. Because the messaging you're putting out in digital format needs to be congruent with the messaging you're putting out in print. and also what you're talking about when you're finally addressing your audience one-on-one. And I would challenge you, these are business concepts, but they're just as applicable to personal branding. And like I said before, do you want your personal branding to be by default or by design? I would suggest you consider doing it by design. Update your LinkedIn posts. If I can give one piece of advice for students, keep your LinkedIn posts clean. That's your professional page. Have articles in there, regular articles or video blogs. Update it. Put your knowledge on there. I want you to embrace your knowledge in your area of expertise and know that there's an audience out there for your content. And strategically approach the 3 pillars of content marketing, your digital, print, and interactive, to have an effective strategy to share your thoughts and ideas out there in the marketplace. And if you do that exceptionally well, you will become the authority in your marketplace. You'll be the expert. You'll own the ink in your industry, and you too can become the yellow tulip in the sea of red. Thank you.